Hello again. Um, yeah, just giving a little update. A couple people have asked. Um, yeah, so I have a roof over my head still, same place, same situation where, the basic things aren't being fixed and the door doesn't work properly. And yeah, I'm intimidated by their maintenance guy or, the millionaire whose son-in-law works for NASA. Yeah, so this is life. This, what we're experiencing that I'm not allowed to complain about. Yeah, it's hard to give updates when people kind of get pretty upset with you if you complain about life at all, or they kind of encourage you to shut the fuck up in various ways, whether it's like reminding you that they're in the same or worse boat, or telling you this is part of spiritual growth, or a certain condition of the stars and where they're aligned. And yeah, it looks to me like it's just plain old people being assholes, and that we used to have laws to prevent this, but I guess maybe it's a galactic alignment that's causing it, you know in which case I should practice more meditative techniques to handle being tortured gracefully, and not to spread it around the internet to disturb others. The way I was raised, when we had issues, we communicated about them and then together solved the problem. But then the internet was invented, and even though we have the ability to communicate and also solve problems, we are supposed to instead realize that we are all spiritual beings and simply need to think positively and never complain, and that is how things will be fixed. I'm late to the game, right? So I had a lot of trauma. So even though I am an awakened being and know how to create things, I keep creating bad things, like just magically. It's amazing. Has nothing to do with, every single thing I do being able to be tracked and manipulated. It is entirely my own inner being really liking difficult situations and being unable to stop myself from emitting this desire for more. Yeah, things have been rough. Things have been real rough. More rough than I can say. So it's on every level, all my levels, all my traumas. And it's like the dark night of the soul, right? So you get so deep into the worst, right? The worst case things. And then have to ask yourself, where is the point of faith? Why did I have faith? Why did I convince myself when I was younger that God was real, that spirit was real, that souls exist? And then, as you age out of certain, like, I appreciate religion and I will always appreciate religion because materialism and, the weird Cybermen of the future exist. And if you don't have religion, they take over and everyone ends up in a robot suit. Watch some Doctor Who, okay? So I appreciate religion for that, while simultaneously hating religion for, how it impacts people's ability to help each other, because what it inadvertently has created is an idea that only moral people based on religious definitions get to have help, and that morality is equated with dollar figures. And yeah, the state of my personal life right now is that everything that I never want to see happening is happening. And it's happening in this way that feels kind of like a mockery, simultaneous to still feeling God's presence, still feeling that awakening. Someone commented on my PTSD video recently about, the way that the masters of old would talk about Kundalini awakening or enlightenment in terms of the bliss that keeps flowing. And the hardest thing to understand is while you are experiencing, all of the rage and torment of your disagreements with reality, you also feel the presence of stability and consciousness that can permeate into the future and into other worlds and other ways of being. And for some people, that might be bliss. So I guess I get that. I understand that. That makes sense. The knowing of a continuation beyond the physical, the transient nature of problems. But when you are suffering due to no other reason than someone else's ignorance and selfishness, their competition for reproduction, and like peons, right? Just like peons that, what are you making? $40,000 a year. For $40,000 a year, you're willing to lie, cheat, and steal for someone else. Not even for your own, not to make yourself a millionaire, to make someone else a millionaire. It's gross. And that's just like the benign version of this. There are really horrific versions of this. I don't think it is anything to do with a cycle in the cosmos. I think once people become awakened, this is what happens. This doesn't happen as a result of the stars moved, the planets moved. Somebody woke up. And now we're at the restaurant at the end of the universe. And we don't get to know what happens because all of our history is from the pre-awakened. So we are in flux. That's why when they do those Project Looking Glass things and it comes back a certain kind of way, they could only try to stop the awakening once it happened. They cannot predict what happens because that is next level, outside the realm. And in an effort to stop it from spreading, it's just, like the clampers come down on everyone. That's what I think. So I have a roof over my head. I feel very much like I need to make a big move. I don't know what that big move should be. Scanning Craigslist for a farm to go work on. Well, I can't leave though, Both of my kids are just in very desperate situations right now. My mom is in a desperate situation right now. I'm left feeling like I have to surrender. Um, and that if I thought that surrendering would lead to anything, but it's like a surrender that's not even a surrender, just like whatever, you know, a giving up on humanity with a, kind of like shrug, like, oh, that was a cool idea. Um, So I haven't come on to report an update because I am still quite miserable, and people say horrible things to you when you're miserable. And at some point, I suppose I should start telling the positive stories again. They never got very many views, the positive stories I shared, like, my dad was an alcoholic for 35 years, like not a regular alcoholic, but like a on the street, living in shelters, living wherever, alcoholic, in and out of jail. Um, wake up in the morning shaking, death's door alcoholic, who had a sudden encounter with a person after he prayed. The only time in his life that he prayed, had a sudden encounter and got completely sober. My own experiences of, falling off a cliff right in front of a boat load full of off-duty paramedic and firemen, rollover accident where I landed in, 4 feet of snow and was not harmed in any way, and getting taken off all of the medication that I had been nearly killed on because I don't have the genetics to be on that medication. And then led through Boulder, Colorado, so I could, sleep on the ground for a few weeks, which apparently takes out all of the toxins from that heavy dosing that they had me on. So I completely recovered in, roughly 3 weeks from years of massive pharmaceutical dosing. Unbelievable amounts of medications. Unbelievable. Quitting it all cold turkey should have killed me. Did not. Like, the miracles in my life, the synchronicities in my life are astounding. I only had hoped to convince people that God was real because I had been saved so many times. So that they would be fearless and stop hurting each other. So that we didn't have to pay $3,000 for apartments while, not getting any real significant increase in wages, and wherever we did, groceries and insurance and car payments and everything. That is the competitive world. What about the rest of us? Like, cool. Do your competition. Cool. Build your wealth. Cool, cool, cool. What about the rest of us? Those of us who don't want to compete, we just want to be alive in community and gentle with each other and explore our souls. What about the rest of us?